I think it's about 7 o'clock, so I thought we'd get started. Thanks for coming this evening. I'm Laura McConwell. I'm the mayor of Mission, and we're here this evening to talk about the transportation utility fee that was authorized by council recently. There have been a lot of questions lately circulating about that, as well as some misinformation that's been out in the media, and so we were hoping this evening would be able to address many of the questions and concerns that you have. The streets and the conditions of our streets and roads infrastructure has been a big concern that's been addressed to me and to council and to staff for a number of years. Johnson Drive is a huge concern. We have not replaced or repaired Johnson Drive between Lamar and Knoll, and it needs it. We have some failing infrastructure underneath that road, as well as some problems that it has no stormwater conveyance system underneath it, except for some pipes that run along. I believe it reads Beverly, possibly Outlook, that the tops were cut out at one point and grates were put in. So in response to that, what we did is we had a street inventory done on all of the roads in the community. And one of the reasons that we like the transportation utility fee is that it would create a separate pool of money that would be outside of our general budget. And it would be something that would be specific, and it would be identifiable, and it wasn't something that was just going to be raised and commingled into our budget. And we continue to explore that. It also spread the cost over all the different people that use our roads and our streets and our infrastructure, and it wouldn't be limited to just certain tax-paying residents and businesses. It would be spread across everyone, including the governmental entities in Mission. There are transportation engineers across the country that compile a list of various uses and estimated trips for all the different uses for the different types of commercial businesses and for residents. And when we utilize that book, which is published, and anyone can get a copy of it, you can come and look at the copy that the city has, and you calculate what the square footage is of a business, that's how it's calculated for commercial. For ease, we determined that we would take an average value of a house in the city of Mission, and we would just go ahead and come up with that particular number and that average on a residence. And at the max of the TUF that was being contemplated by council, that would be $72 a year for a residential property. And when we went through, we tried to make sure that everyone contributed, would be contributing. We had also had in the works a number of public hearings that we were going to have, but we hadn't set those. After the talk radio started calling it a driveway tax, we went ahead and we had 4 public meetings in the summer. We had 2 in June, 2 in August, and I see some of you that are here were at those meetings. In August, we then had our funding meetings. And at the funding meetings, we talked about and we had people divided up so that they could see what council was working on, and we talked about the transportation utility fee and how it was calculated and how it's assessed. We talked about another option that the city could do would be just to raise the mill. And in the city of Mission, we'd have to raise the mill about 10 mills to equal what the transportation utility fee would bring, because of all the places that do not contribute to a property tax. We talked about sales tax. We talked about special assessments. We talked about a whole variety of different types of funding mechanisms. And as a result of those meetings, and that was just our 1.5 million share, because with that money we can leverage other funding sources. Right now in Mission, we have a 1/4 cent sales tax that is dedicated to paying off the bonds of the expansion of the community center. That will sunset in the first quarter of 2011, which is about a year and a half early. And there was an overwhelming support for council to bring that to the community so that we can vote to reauthorize that 1/4 cent sales tax for a 10-year period, which is what we've been contemplating, a 10-year plan, and have that then be set aside specifically for that transportation infrastructure. And then the third thing was to go ahead and use the transportation utility fee as rather than raising the mill as a way of generating the rest, because they could see that this was a pretty fair way to go ahead and spread that cost. And people at the meeting indicated that we need to fix our roads. We need to fix that infrastructure, and that's important to Mission. It's important to our continued vitality as we move into the future. A couple other things that was asked, and those are going to be on a case-by-case basis, and that had to do with assessing properties. Overall, just assessing the property owners for the repairs to roads or the replacement of roads, which is how the roads were originally put in, wasn't favored, because that's really expensive, and we didn't think the property owners that's something that they could absorb. But there were several in the group, or a number in the group, that felt that if there were some specific special things that were only for the benefit of just a few property owners, that some portion of that expense would be assessed rather than shared by the entire community. And that makes sense. The examples that were given, if there were some special things that happened on a cul-de-sac or a dead end. And those were all things that council is absolutely interested in pursuing as we move on through this, through the plan. I'd like to answer some specific questions that you all have about this transportation utility fee, but I did want to give you the background on where we've been and the different steps that council has taken, and then any questions that you might have. Well, she wants to know is what happens when all the businesses move out of town and it's a ghost town. So am I to infer from your question that you think businesses are going to move out of town because of this transportation utility fee?
My question to you is, everybody in this room, I would bet money, wants to see Mission do the right things for its streets and infrastructure, okay? But let's do it in a positive way. Why did we not vote on this, quote, driveway tax? Why didn't we vote on it?
Because the transportation utility fee isn't something that gets voted on. A sales tax is.
Is that you guys just tried to ram this thing through as opposed to trying to bring it to a vote to the general public? Let us make our own decision. Don't be like the federal government and try and put things on us that you think you know best for us. We know what's good for us. We do. And we'd like to vote on it.
Beverly?
We were not informed on any meetings or anything. This concerns us. I know this concerns your residents, but it concerns us business people an awful lot. I've been in business 52 years of this. I cannot lose my business. And I told you, and I wrote every council people here, 90% of my business comes into Mission from outside Mission. They're spending their money in the city of Mission. They don't only spend it at mine. They go to the McDonald's, they go to the Target, they go everywhere. And now you're going to charge me a road because of the people that I bring into the city of Mission. It's not fair.
Brian?
For the police department, for the pool, for the Palace Center, and the city's contribution to your trash disposal, if you added all that up.
So you're asking about the subsidy?
Yeah.
The difference? Okay.
I mean, we closed the Palace Center, we closed the pool, we stopped paying the residences half of their trash pickup. We eliminated the police department. Maybe that would be enough money, we wouldn't have to raise taxes.
The subsidy to the community center is $850,000 a year.
There you go.
So when you look at that transfer that's on that one board, that doesn't include that $850,000. The swimming pool is about $150 to $200, and the solid waste utility, that portion which we subsidize for residents, is $325,000.
So total?
Almost $1.3 million.
There you go.
Add those together.
Eliminate all that. How much for the police department?
Police department, if you net out fine revenues, 3.2.
Bingo.
That you either reduce our rent to cover our portion of the tax, or we're gone. And the project was barely profitable to begin with because of the standards that we have to develop to. Now it's in a loss position.
On top of your
Lee?
application fees to just submit a plan to your 4 base codes to the mall that no longer exists, you have completely shut this city down.
Well-
This tax is just the last nail on the coffin.
Steve?
Johnson Drive, Mart Way, Row, and now Knoll. To save money, let's stop narrowing streets. If we haven't gone too far on Knoll already, $200,000 water gardens, stuff like that we've been approved by council. It had to come. I mean, we're out of money because we overspent. So, I believe that's the root of the problem, and I know you care about mission, Laura. There's no doubt. But this tax is going to hurt the business, which will hurt residential. It'll make people go out of business. People won't come here to shop. New businesses won't come. We need to take another look at this. And if you can use your power of veto, you need to veto this and start again.
In small business, when we have a cash flow problem, we analyze source of revenues, sales, and we also analyze expenses. Now, you focus mainly on your revenues here. The crowd, I think, has hit on a few good ideas on expenses. But the worst thing we can do is raise our prices. If we raise our prices, we are just going downhill, either gradually or just off the edge. It's the worst thing you can do is raise your prices. We need more destination businesses in the city of Mission. We don't have reasons for people to come other than renew their license. And we need more things. We were really excited when we bought the Schlotzskys that we were going to have this nice big development down here. We felt that was going to raise our property values. Right now, I'm worried to death that my retirement's in that building up there. So we're scared to death about our property values. We cannot raise our prices. We cannot do that and expect to grow.
Just to add to the point that was just made, on the flip side of that, if you don't raise your prices, how are you going to pay the tax? Quite frankly, we can't afford to do that. It's going to fire people, which is not a good solution for Mission. It's not a good solution for the businesses. I guess what I question most is this process. I've talked to a lot of business people, but I don't know any business owners that have really weighed in on this process. I haven't talked to any business owner who's in favor of this process. So who was involved in it? This is the first meeting that we knew about, and we attended. So the newsletter and that form of notification is just not satisfactory. You got an important issue that you want to air out, you need to get the attention of the people. You obviously did that successfully tonight. The question is, what's our recourse now? Fundamentally, we as business owners are not in favor of this. So what is the recourse now? Please answer that.
Well, the next part of this, so that the maximum wouldn't be needed that was authorized by council under the transportation utility fee, is to have the residents vote on sales tax. And if the residents vote on sales tax, the amount that's needed from a transportation utility fee, which was authorized by council, is less. And we did have one resident, actually he's the resident to my left, that said we should, and it was a quarter cent, not an eighth of a cent, but he suggested we should do a half a cent sales tax and just do the whole entire thing by sales tax.